Well, damn, that didn't stop very well. Welcome back to another episode of Gas Diesel Garage. I'm Jack, and I'm here to make sure you don't get screwed by the dealer, so stay tuned. As you can tell, that Honda Pilot didn't stop very well in the rain, and furthermore, doesn't stop very well while you're driving it either. It kind of shakes, pulsates, especially when you're going about 60, 70 miles an hour down interstate and you start to feel that like that. That means those rotors are warped. And the funny thing is, I replaced those things last year sometime, and now they built up all that heat. Now they're warped again. So what I went ahead and did this time is I picked up some upgrades for this Honda Pilot. Cross-drilled, slotted rotors. Yeah, this ain't a little racer, but these things dissipate heat very, very well. Link in the description below if you want to pick up a pair, because I tell you what, I think this is going to do the trick. And of course, when you replace the brakes, got to take those tires off. So let's do that now. Now, to do this job, you're going to need a couple of tools, some very specific tools. First, you need some channel locks to push the piston in on the caliper. You can use channel locks, or if you prefer, you can use a C-clamp. And of course, there's other tools that can push the piston in. You can even stick a screwdriver in the middle of the caliper and push the piston back while it's still on. But I highly don't recommend that because the screwdriver can snap and hit you in the face. And the next is you need a 17 millimeter for the caliper bolts, and then you need a 19 millimeter for the caliper bracket that needs to come off the spindle in order to take the rotor off. And speaking of the rotor, Hondas, they're kind of a pain in the butt, because the rotors, they like to be held on by two Phillips head screws in the middle of the rotor. And some people strip those things out, and then you have to end up drilling it out, and that's a pain in the butt. So if you can spare, get yourself an impact screwdriver, because you hit it one time and it loosens that screw up on the rotor. I'll show you what I'm talking about when we get into it. Last but not least, you need some brake clean. This is not a paid advertisement for brake clean, just to let you know. But you can get some down in the description below if you'd like. And also too, you need some grease. This is going to be the most important thing, because most people think that brake squeaks come from bad hardware or misalignment or glazed rotors. No. It's this. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And next thing you need is one of my favorites, zip ties, because we're going to zip tie the caliper to the upper strut spring, so it's not hanging, and that's bad. So zip ties. And need a hammer. Might need to knock those rotors off with some force. Alright, now to get down to business. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the caliper bolts off, which are the 17 millimeters. One there, one there. Now here's where the zip tie comes in. I'm going to want to take the caliper off, and I want to zip tie it up here, because you don't want this thing to hang and rip the brake hose out. That would suck. Now next we got to take the caliper bracket off, because we're not going to be able to access the rotor if you don't take that off. Now you see these little screws? You got one right there and one right there. These are installed by the manufacturer on the assembly line for when it's going down the assembly line and they install the rotors. They install the rotor on, and then they put the screws in so everything can be aligned and put together. Some people don't put them back in. I put them back in. It's original equipment, so it should go back in there. But as long as you don't screw up the screws, you can take them out and put them back in. So get yourself an impact screwdriver. It'll come out just like this. Easy peasy. There we go. Now the next thing is we need to be able to push these dual pistons back into the caliper, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to put the new pads in and slide it over the rotor and zip everything down. So in order to do that, just take one of the old pads, put it in there like that. Some people use a C-clamp. I don't like C-clamps. Just use some channel locks. Be able to push her right back in just like that. See how the piston's pushed back in? Now it's time to clean all this stuff up. Get all that dirt off. Take a wire brush to it. Be hooking it up. And spray a bit of brake clean in it. Get up some of that dust. Brake dust, that is. Don't get that stuff on the paint, because your paint will be screwed. Now it's time for Jack's Tech Tip. Ever wonder why your brakes squeak so bad? It's because of all the brake dust that's built up inside your slides and your hardware. To correct that, that's where the grease comes in, and that's where the brake clean comes in. You want to completely clean all of your hardware and all of your brake parts in general. Clean it all off free of brake clean, with brake clean rather, or some other kind of solution that'll get rid of all that dust. But then you need the grease, because you're gonna need to lube up everything so everything will slide. Because you got to think about it. What does metal to metal do? Metal to metal screeches. But if it had grease sliding in and out, you ain't gonna hear any squeaking. So don't always think you need brakes. You might just need some cleaning and some grease. Well, here's your caliper. I'm sorry, your brake caliper bracket that houses the pads. What you want to do is you're going to disassemble all this. You're going to take the brake pad off. You don't need that. You're going to take these old slides off, brake pad slides. Take those off, or shims, whatever you want to call them. Take them off because you got new ones in the kit. Okay, and here's where most of your squeaking is going to be, because you got to understand the caliper moves in and out like this, and inside here is a cylinder. It wants to be a pain in the butt. Oh gosh, see that? Look at all that dirt and grime, all that stuff build up. It's gonna cause metal to metal screeching sounds, so you want to clean all that up. Yep, clean this one out too. Ew, look at that. That's freaking, that's really gross. Clean all this stuff up and grease it, and you'll be squared away. Now it's time to start assembling this. Yeah, like I said, we took those shims out because the kit comes with new ones. You got 4, 2 on each side. And make sure you install these correctly, because they will let you know if you get them on wrong. Slide in just like that. And you're going to want to grease these also. Grease all that in there. You don't want any kind of metal to metal contact. That's where all that noise comes from. Just like that. Now that's ready to go back on. Now I don't load the pads onto it, you know, before I put it on, because I'd rather put them on after I get the rotor in and get the bracket all mounted up and situated, because trying to balance these things inside those clips is a pain in the butt. Make sure when you get new rotors, make sure you wash them up with some brake clean, because most rotors get shipped in this packing grease. It's called Molly or something like that. Anyways, it's coating. It's an anti-rusting compound that they put on the rotors. So make sure you take it off, because put these on without cleaning them off. If you haven't seen smoke before, you'll see some smoke. So just make sure you clean it. All you gotta do is just wipe it off. Okay, now when it comes down to putting the pads on, you're going to want to make sure you put the right pad on the right position, because all you got to do is pull off that inner pad, and you see that clip? That's your wear brake indicator, that right there. It needs to be in a specific spot. Now you can tell this is the inboard pad, because that's what the caliper is or pistons on the caliper are pushing into, so you can tell. So make sure you grab one that is the same, like that one. This is the new one, and obviously it goes in there like that. So make sure that one goes in there the same way, because when the caliper, when the rotor is turning, it's gonna want to catch while it's on the downstroke, if you will, not the other way. You want to go this way. So anyways, just another tip. And make sure you grease the crap out of these also. Alright, now that we got the front done, now it's time to move to the rear. But I think that's probably going to have to wait till tomorrow. So, see you in about 2 seconds. Alright, now it's the next day. now that we got the fronts done, which look inside there, woo boy, look pretty good. But now we're gonna move to the rear. We're gonna knock these rear rotors out. Get squared away. Now, of course, for the rear, you got a couple of different sizes that are going to be different from the front. You know, since it's a smaller caliper bracket and smaller caliper, of course the hardware is going to be different. Well, first you need a 12 millimeter. Those are your 2 bolts for your caliper itself, and then you're going to need a 14 millimeter for the caliper bracket to take off. And of course, the same as the front, you're going to need your impact screwdriver to take those 2 screws out. And also to your grease to grease it all up, your wire brush, clean it all up, and some brake clean. I do have a correction. To get the caliper bracket bolts out, it's a 17 millimeter. Not a 14 millimeter. My mistake. Now this part is the same on the front and the back. You know, cleaning up all the slides, replacing the slides, and just cleaning all this stuff up good so you don't have any brake dust that's gonna make all that daggone noise. Now, of course, as you can see, this job is pretty much done. But there's one thing I caution you on that you got to do anytime you do these brakes and you push those calipers back. Make sure you do this before you even start this thing up and put it in gear. You need to pump them brakes. Make sure they're stiff, because if they're not, you're gonna roll right out of the driveway and cause some damage. Well, this officially ends this episode of Gas Diesel Garage. And remember, this is me reminding you not to get screwed by the dealer. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Peace!